Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. Hello, how you doing? And of course here LinkedIn. So welcome to my live talk around anxiety, building upon the conversation I had yesterday. Um, learn to tell whether. So I need to go back to the title on this one. Learn how to tell whether your anxiety is protective or problematic. And this is basically building upon my conversation yesterday, or day before yesterday, I think it was. Anxiety is good for us. We learn more, okay? But there seems to be anxiety itself seems to be a word that we fear. Oh, I suffer from anxiety. Okay, right. That's really not the correct way to say to your brain about whatever your worries are, because a human will always have stress. I will have stress. It can go up and down. Now, this short, brief article that I got from the Telegraph is giving us 10 tips around anxiety. But how do we know whether too much anxiety is too much that we need to seek help? Well, it's whether we're constantly worrying about something. So you have a fear. Say you have a fear, getting on a bus and starting your new job, and you start your new job in the new year. There's going to be lots of you who want to start new careers. That's fantastic, but you get to a level where you got fear of actually going out. You get to work, you do your job, you're settling a little bit well, but you're getting home, and you never go on the bus. Okay. Sometimes the mind can build up the strangest anxieties that everybody else seems, oh, what are you worrying about that for? Don't, come on, just do it. It's probably the worst advice you're ever going to get. And it's really important that we train our brain to say, right, okay, I'm developing a phobia, for instance, or even if you might start to experience a panic attack, each panic attack is going to be different to everybody. And you might not even be in that zone, but you might just want to, watch me here to understand a little bit more about the idea of what really anxiety is and how much is too much that I think I need to ring my GP, for instance, or seek professional help. First of all, I mean, like I said, the worst advice you're going to get is don't worry, you're going to be all right. Just get on with it, keep yourself busy. It's the worst advice you're going to get because the brain, the stress, and the anxiety will catch up with you in the end. Okay. Our minds are very complex, but also they're very brilliant and they're very good at letting us know we need to slow down. Trust me, I live with non-epileptic attack disorder, and I had 2 seizures this year. So Monday is going to be a new year, so a fresh start for everybody, for all of us. And I really want to help people to understand more about trying to simplify anxiety because we're overcomplicating it. It doesn't mean that I can take away your stress and your fears in your head, but it might mean, okay, right, I need to understand a little bit more how to process it. Because once we process fear, your anxiety, which is really another word for worry, actually lowers. Okay. Not all the time, and it's going to be very different for everybody because some of you might suffer from PTSD. Some of you might be depressed, or at the other end of the spectrum, clinically depressed, which is diagnosed. Some of you might not even be diagnosed, and you might have a fear inside you. You don't want to go to the doctors because you feel like you've got a low mood, and you've spoken to no one about it. All you've been doing is searching Google articles, literally, and trying to understand about your own condition or your anxiety. What are you worried about? And you have a fear. And sometimes that can be very dangerous because if we don't ask for help, whether it be a GP, a friend, somebody like me knows what they're talking about because they've been through the experience of having seen traumatic events, and I'm an active researcher in my own independent right. I am retraining to become a counsellor, so I have a lot of experience, lived experience, as well as expertise in mental health areas and different conditions. I've worked with people that have had schizophrenia, cerebral palsy. I understand a lot about PTSD, and that's great because it helps my mental health. But sometimes we feel we don't want to even read up on articles or subjects about our own conditions because we feel that's going to increase anxiety itself. So remember, anxiety, another simple way to put it, is basically your worries in your mind. Or you could change over, just I don't want to confuse you too much, but I want to give you a lot of information today as you've got the last 2 days of 2023, and I want to give you a bit of a step up, a good starting point, a good foundation to build your education around your mental fitness or your mental health, whatever you decide you prefer. I prefer mental fitness, but I think we're a long way off trying to, put that mental fitness mindset into the NHS. It's the services they provide around mental health. Okay, and mental health is a good thing, by the way. Yeah, there's a very bad perception out there that we feel that mental health is, if I asked you how your mental health is, if I asked 100 people how your mental health is, you're like, oh, I don't know, it's not been great. Yeah. And we seem to have created a really bad mindset, and it could be through the media. Some people might say that I use the wrong terminology, but it's safe to talk about it. It's important because the more we relax it, and yes, there is a danger that we can over conceptualize. What I mean by that is we can over terminalize what mental health is, so much so in our own minds that we just don't want to talk about it, and it increases anxiety. But the safe way of talking about it is using what you feel, you as a person, you right here, what you feel comfortable talking about mental fitness or mental health. So for me, for instance, I know that I suffer from epilepsy, non-epileptic attack disorder. My seizures are rare, which is good. I don't always know when they're going to happen. I recognize my stress when I feel like it's going too high, and then I might want to lower it. Okay, how do I lower my own stress, my own anxiety? Where I go for a walk for a start, and if we're not eating well, sleeping well, and actually giving our body a chance, our body and our mind, by the way, to actually live a comfortable, happy life as best as we can. We can't always control the outside world. For instance, there's 2 wars in Europe. I can't control that. You can't. And that's a fear on its own, because you might be somebody that's grown up a country next door to where something is kicking off, and you feel like, oh, I'm so worried it's going to be happening over here. It's a worry. We have worries 24/7. But it's dangerous for us as humans to constantly go down that corridor of, we don't overthink. That's the wrong terminology. It's good for us to think about these things, but how we process it and tell ourselves that we are safe. I live in the UK, and it's a relatively safe country at the moment. Okay, where I can get up in the morning where I live. I can go to church on a Sunday, for instance. I might witness a crime, but I don't fear for my life every day that I wake up. In some parts of the world, they have that. So they live in a very war-torn country, for instance, and there is a fear of life because they're being oppressed. That is a different world, where it's reality, but it's a different anxiety because they're living through an active constant fear. And that's very, very difficult to try and safeguard the brain to say that you are safe. And the thing we have to remember is that we don't always know what's going to happen. So that's why it's a kind of a cliche where we say to ourselves, you know what, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but because of that, I feel all right because I'm excited. And each one of us are going to have to decide how we process that information. So how are we going to know, all right, I've got anxiety about going out the door and going to the shops. Yeah. Maybe you've been diagnosed with depression and you've been in that state for a long time. and you just feel like, you know what, I don't want to go out, and you've got no treatment plan, you're not doing talking therapies, and you've got no support network, that's a hard one. So that's when we need a breakthrough. So watching a simple video live talk like this might be the catalyst. Or you might go into a bookstore when you've got the confidence and buy a self-help book. But the idea long term is to wake up and, for instance, try to be a bit more thankful that you are alive, you've got a roof over your head, for instance. And sometimes it can be that way that we can increase our well-being. And it doesn't mean that we can, click our fingers to say, you know what, I'm never going to suffer from anxiety again, because life does not work that way. Okay. We need to have fear and worries in our mind for us to grow. We do more learning through the bad experiences than we do the good. Okay. I would argue. So, if I could kind of channel this conversation a little bit more around the title, because I don't think I've quite done that yet. So in this New York Times article, by the way, it's normal to feel anxious from time to time. In fact, having some anxiety can be useful. And I've kind of really gone a little bit more in depth into that detail. And this article says, let me read out. Right, so this is when you feel like you've got too much anxiety. How much anxiety is too much, right? I'll try to answer that. In this expert doctor said, if you start to notice that worry and fear are there constantly, that is a signal that you need some help. Okay, but at the end of the day, anxiety is everywhere we look. Okay, whether we're walking across the road, and if I don't look in both directions, I might get hit by a car. So that's like a little micro instance of anxiety. Okay, fear is all around us, and we have to be more comfortable with that, because if I wake up every single day, fear that I'm going to get run over, and I never cross the road, only going across zebra crossings, for instance, and I'm in my mid-40s and I can never cross the road, then that's going to affect my mental health. Okay, because there's a constant fear and a constant worry to say, you know what, no, I'm not going to cross the road. No, that's it. So it is strange, going back to what I said earlier. Sometimes the mind can build up these strange anxieties around everything or anything, even the smallest thing. And one of our friends might think that's so strange, or we feel like it's strange, but fear is within all of us. Okay. Now, more often than not, fear is based on an event in the past. So that could be you've been in an abusive relationship, or you've been attacked, you've been a victim of some kind, or you've done crime and you feel like you're self-punishing yourself. It can be two ways of the coin. So, in actual fact, what is the best way to say to ourselves, you know what, my anxiety levels are high. How do I help myself? Okay. So I don't want to try and teach people to always pick up the phone and ring their GP. I would advise it, if you've been in a low state of mood for over 2 weeks, if you're under that radar, and as in you've gone for a couple of bad days, you need to allow yourself to process those anxieties. How do you do that? What's the best way? Some of the best ways that I've found in my own lived experience of where I've gone through fear myself, and where I live with a condition that's extremely related to fear, is the number one, you need to slow your thoughts down. How do you slow all that kind of noise in your head, that stress, the anxiety of everything? Everything's piling on top of me, I feel scared and worried. We need to relax. Okay, how do we relax? That's for you to decide, whether it's reading a book, going for a walk, having a hot bath, watching a film. You've got to relax the brain, because when the brain is overload, okay, I'll use the term overload. When you feel like everything's pushing down on you, that is a dangerous state where we can't really rationalize our thoughts. And rationalization is something that we love in the counseling game and the mental health profession, because it's that state where we can process the cognitive thoughts, our thoughts up here in short, and we allow ourselves either through what we call empathy in action, which is somebody being kind to you, even in counseling, or a friend, or even to yourself. And we take those fears and anxieties and we push them over to the left or right side. I can't remember what side of the brain it is now, but we rationalize the thoughts so that we feel comfortable with that worry or anxiety. So, for instance, if I woke up today, which I did, and I felt not that energetic, I wanted to go to the gym today, but I felt a bit drained. So I said to myself, you know what, to safeguard myself, I'm not going to push myself that much. I went to the gym on Boxing Day. I had a good session. I was in there an hour and a half. I was doing filming. I had some fun. It was great, and I felt like I pushed myself, and that's enough. So I'm not going to go today. I might go tomorrow. Okay. And I think sometimes what I've learned in my personal journey is that when we have anxieties, we can break through them either by saying to ourselves, I've done enough for today, or I'm going to push forward on that. But I know that I can say to myself, yeah, I've done enough. Okay. And it's not, that's the trick about good mental fitness or good mental health. It's you saying to yourself, what is enough, what isn't enough. And the only really way you're going to, you know, test the waters, as it were, is by experiencing life and going through things. But we must talk about it, because if we don't talk about our anxieties and we're just storing it up inside here, that can increase the levels to a dangerous level. And where, you know, there's a lots of cases of long-term depression or clinical depression, which is not really my field, but you need to really speak to a psychologist for that. But the depression at the basic level, as in, you know, a low mood for a couple of weeks, can happen to all of us. And the idea around talking therapies or counseling is that you've been through something, or you're going through something, or you've got anxiety, and somebody is in front of you or on the phone, whether it be telephone counseling or just a friend, and they try to feel an element of your fear or anxiety, worry that you're going through. And then you feel, oh, that person listened to me. Yeah. I mean, you're not always going to have that feeling, but it's nice when someone does listen to you, what you're going through. And that is so important for all of us. And that's why we do need to have more empathy in this world. But it's hard because sadly, the data and history, look at, we've got 2 wars in Europe. We are becoming more angry, right? From the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, from my independent research, as I look through time, sadly, the human race is becoming more angry, and we're seeing more severe crimes going up, whether it be sexual crime, violent crime. And when we get to that level, it is dangerous, because you can't just press a button to say to all these millions of people in the world, look, you shouldn't do that. Everybody's got a story. And more often than not, yes, it is a case that children or people that have been abused will go on to commit crimes, and they go into the system. They don't always get the help, the support. It's not widely available, and that's fair enough, because there isn't always resources to go around. And what I'm trying to do, just to give you a bit of a side story, is try and teach you one person to one person, or through these live talk videos, how we can process our thoughts up here and work and say, you know what, I've done enough today. Like me in the gym story, I know that if I don't go to the gym tomorrow, I'm not going to punish myself. I'm not going to punish myself, because what's the point of that? That just be, and it can easily happen. You know, sometimes we can build anxieties around going to the gym too much, and the body will let you know when you're overtrained, for sure. But some of us feel like we need to be in the gym every day because people are always looking at us. And that's the reason why we're trying to put all the muscles on and look good. And when you look at some social media platforms, which I'm on all social media platforms at the moment, when Instagram first came about, it was very much, look, I want to put myself on there. I want 1 million followers. I want people to like me. And, I wrote a paper back in university on Facebook and what damage it can do to society. It has done. Marriage breakup, if you see a photo of your partner in a photo, for instance, and this is real life. So, we can build anxieties around anything, including social media, seeing pictures and images. Jealousy is a real human emotion. I know I'm expanding here a little bit, but I think it's important to have these conversations. Anxiety is something we need to really, whilst I close off on this talk, re-educate ourselves and be safe around our own inner selves. Okay, that's you inside up here, and recognize where your fears come from, process it, go for your walks, know how to. You're not going to be able to snap out of all your worries, but if you can say to yourself, like I said to myself, like tomorrow if I go back in the gym, I'll be happy. If I don't, it's not the end of the world. Not every problem situation is going to be like that. However, it's important that we learn to try to, stand on our own 2 feet. Okay, because the sad case is that depression, anxiety, global suicide, even wars will go up around the world because we're becoming more angry. We're not into a system yet where we get taught about mental fitness or mental health during our education. Um, and speaking yesterday around veteran support to safeguard people, soldiers from PTSD, that's going to be a hard one because we're not teaching them how to look after their own mental fitness to a certain level. Okay, we can't protect the brains 100% from trauma. We can't put a helmet on all the time, but the helmet we can wear is emotional intelligence. So that's your ability to understand your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, which is a lifetime process, by the way. It changes over time, and it depends on how good your education is and how good your self-education is on recognizing your fears and anxieties, how to process them, how to get yourself to, what helps you relax, finding ways to relax. We have to relax the brain more than we have to overwork it. We overwork it too much, okay, because that's what we do as humans. Um, we're trying to change the 5-day week to a 4-day week. Not every company wants to do it, but we are working too hard, and we're working too hard. We've got a cost of living crisis. It's so much on our brains, and we feel, life today is hard, and it really is. I'm approaching 50, and I've lived a bit. I've been in the reserve forces. I've travelled a little bit, but I've been through a lot of events, and I said to myself, you know what? Yeah, life is hard, but if we process it to say, look, these are the things I'm good at. I want to give you some good news at the end of this talk. These are the things I'm good at. And if we use, for instance, what I believe in servant leadership, that's where you recognize the things you're good at and you contribute your skills to society. And there's so much goodness, and your mental fitness will increase so much if you recognize where you fit in life. Because a lot of us spend many years in depression, PTSD sufferers that are on medication, they're on high levels of antidepressants, and they never find their way back to society, sadly, because it's not always about the support isn't there. It's how you process what's happening to you, and how do you teach yourself to get out of that zone. Yeah, you do need support, but it's not always universal in every single community. So we need to have more. If I could summarize a little bit, which is kind of difficult, we need more support around our own re-educating ourselves around mental fitness, understand the goodness of emotional intelligence, what anxiety is to us individually, and the more we teach ourselves and look at our brains and reflect upon our day by day experiences, We get to understand who we are in life. And I think for me, I know who I am. I know what I'm good at. I know what I want to do. And despite my epilepsy and all the other things that have gone wrong in my life, I feel grateful and thankful that I am alive. And I've got so much hope for the future because although you know, things were hard for me, when I was younger, with my, different things happening in my life, I'm in a position now where, okay, I'm still, my health is not 150%. Okay. Is it ever for any of us? But I want to try to give and serve, and to do these live videos is a privilege to me. So I get joy doing these live talks, and that creates happiness in me despite me and my health conditions. And a lot of people that suffer long-term mental health conditions, other severities like schizophrenia is very different because it's a long-term literally lifetime condition. But PTSD is workable and maneuverable, same as my condition, non-epileptic attack disorder. Anxiety is real. We live with it. We can learn to love it in actual fact, and learn more how to process our fears. And that's really, I probably should have titled this talk "How to Learn to Process Your Fears." Maybe I'll do that one for tomorrow. But anyway, I've spoken long enough. I'm now going on for nearly half an hour, but it's all being recorded and it's going across all my social platforms. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you to paying attention. I'll be doing these talks every day, one live talk every day across all my social media platforms, because I think it's the best way to get advice out. Okay, rather than post all these little videos here and there, I just want to get into the conversation and just tell people how it is. This is how I've gone through some things myself. This is my kind of grind expertise in this field, and you have to move away from this video afterwards, and it might open up the thinking. Your life is your life. Your worries are your worries. Doesn't mean that no one cares. I care, but you need to care for yourself. I need to safeguard myself. And sometimes we have to move away from relationships for people that feel they're not good for us. So always try to surround yourself with the right people. That's not always easy, depending where you are, situation. But we need to safeguard our brains because our brain health is the most important thing on this earth. Trust me. Some of you might argue it's my family, my friends, but if you've got not good brain health, how are you going to recognize that importance? How are you going to thrive as a brother, sister, mum, dad, parent? We need good brain health, mental fitness, or mental health. Anyway, folks, as I approach nearly the half-hour mark, I think that is enough for me. I hope you had a good Christmas. My Christmas was good. By the way, some friends might be watching this. That was good. I'm not really going to do anything New Year's Eve. You might be starting to think about New Year's Eve. I just think I need to rest a little bit, okay? And rest is good for mental health. Anyway, have a great day, folks, and I'll see you here tomorrow. I don't know what time, okay, but you'll know when I go live, okay? You'll get notified, hopefully. Anyway, cheers, folks. Bye for now.